I know. Let's try this again. I tried to record, but it didn't work. Hello. Thank you for joining the series about how injuries impact our mental game, how injuries impact our social game, how injuries impact our breathing, the way we eat, the way we sleep, the way we think about ourselves. I wasn't intending to do a series about breathwork, injuries, and mental games, but a fighter that I'd been accompanying the past couple of um, days before last weekend, he was having a fight last weekend, and then he got his leg locked, and like that, he's now in Italy because he decided to tape his foot and just continue to go for it, because he's mentally very strong and he wants to go for less optimization, less perfection, and just continue. He wants to continue. If you're an athlete, you know that feeling. You're going to continue. If you're a friend of an athlete, you know that you would never recommend that. If you are whoever you are, you might be recommending it or not recommending it. You might have done it, might never want to repeat it. Doesn't matter. Doesn't matter for now. We're just here to share contemplation. And then I have some exercises for you, but I also have maybe more perspectives that we can look upon together. I am not sure if you're watching this because you are injured, have been injured, or want to improve something, or just because of interest. But whichever your reason may be, you're welcome to write something in the comments. I think we live in a time where everyone knows better and where everyone wants to give tips on how to do things. So I want to be very careful with not doing that, but rather more maybe tell a bit of, or some stories, or explain what I've observed in myself and in others. Um, Hi, I'm Sarah. I studied contemporary dance, and during my career as a dancer, I focused on strengthening and helping dancers to be okay on stage after injuries, upstage, during their educations, and then started to get interested in the mental game of athletes and artists. So I went into body psychotherapy, started working with women that have mental and food disorders, and then went into the breath stuff, only because I think that the breathing is a key to the way we think, the way we feel, and has the power to change the most with the least amount of money, the least amount of therapists, the least amount of doctors that we have to encounter or meet. We can change a lot just by understanding how the breath interacts with us. Now, the problem is a lot of breathing stuff that is being sold out there is not explained in a way that you can choose depending on your brain structure, your brain chemistry, the chemistry of your physicality, the chemistry of your athleticism. What I mean with that is that a runner will have another chemistry running through his body than, yes, a ballet dancer. A ballet dancer will have a different chemistry than a golf player. A golf player will have a different brain, breath, and physical chemistry going on, and a different mentality than a swimmer. And a swimmer will have a different chemistry than a water polo player or an artistic swimmer. So we need to become aware that the way our brain works and the way we have shaped the patterns within our behavior and the way we think about ourselves is going to define which type of breathing technique we need in which given moment, especially if we are injured. It depends a lot what you have done latest and where you come from, what you have to do during and whilst healing an injury. Now, the problem with injuries in athletes is that usually we're going to have a very high volume of training before the injury. And the reason why we get injured is most definitely going to come because we are either overtrained, had an accident that is absolutely unrelated to the sport. You know, most dancers do really crazy stuff and then they just step up on a stone and or are on their bicycle or walk down the stairs and something crazy happens. But usually that is because they are overtrained or they are very tired or they are very preoccupied. And then the brain is a bit overwhelmed and then the body does something weird. Or for whatever reason, we're not eating well or blah, blah, blah. So there might be different reasons why we get injured. But usually it will take us out of track. Now, the breath and the breathing has most definitely achieved a very high level before the injury. Now, we're not gonna speak about injuries for normal people, so people that have a very deloaded or low training load. We speak about people that have a very high training load and then from there need to move into not training almost at all. Usually, what happens if you have been training a lot, your stamina and your strength for a longer period of time, and let's say even if the period was intensely just 1 month, but usually it will be more than a month, then from 100 moving down to 0, even if it's just 3 days of no movement because you were sick or you got injured, your body is going to a shock mode that is going to change the chemistry of your breath, because since your lung is not being under the pressure and tension and load of training that you're used to, the exchange of CO2 is going to suffer. Yeah? So most people, what they do when they get injured, they will either continue and then have the mental and emotional stress about that and then start to move into anxiety for different reasons, because they might not get their contract extended, they will not be able to play the game, they're not going to be able to go into the competition. So the mental game is one of the most important parts within the injury, but the mental game is going to impact the breath because the brain and the breath are connected. So anything that you think, you feel, or you imagine is going to affect your breathing. Now, if we make an exercise just about the imagination, let's do one thing. You're just going to sit down, put one hand on your heart and one on your stomach. You're just going to breathe in and out. You can close your eyes if you want. My voice is going to guide you through. The exercise is not going to take longer than 2 minutes. So I just want you to observe your breathing into this normal state. Observe how your jaw feels. Observe the tension around your skull. The tension and the motion around your neck and your rib cage. Observe the tension around your neck, your eyes. Observe the sensation of your hands and your feet. And then I want you to think about the worst injury, either mental, social, or physical, that you can think of and remember. Can be a breakup, the last breakup that you had. It can be the moment that you got the injury in your shoulders, elbows, hands, feet, spine, face. I want you to feel into the moment and how that impacted your emotions, and your career. No matter if it was a breakup, no matter if it was try to move back into how did that moment feel in your body? How did the people that were with you react upon you? What were the most dark seconds that you remember? And now observe how your breathing is reacting to that imagination. Observe the tension in your mouth, in your neck. Try to go back to the imagination and the feeling of how that felt, how that impacted your face. And try to inhale whilst thinking of that bad moment. And you're definitely going to feel how that memory is impacting your whole system. And it's just a memory. It's just a thought. It's just what you made out of that situation is what your body remembers. So when we have, and I'm going to stop now and then I'm going to start a new video when I come back from the theater. We're going to continue with this. And then you can watch the other one either now or later, or tomorrow, or in 2 days. Now what we did is we just thought back to a situation. Whilst you were in that situation, you didn't think back, you thought to the front. You thought about everything that was going to happen and is going to change just because of this situation. Either because someone injures you, or because you did a stupid step, or you overtrained yourself, or you were super tired. Probably that injury, hopefully not, is still impacting you now. Back then you were thinking about the future. Now, what you do is you're thinking a lot into the past. So what injuries do, they change the way our brain directs our thinking into the past or into the future. And then we start to get into shock mode that is going to affect our breathing just because of the imagination that we have. Now, of course, if you are training a lot and your body is very small of this video, even though I'm small, but I look very small. When you are training a lot, the CO2 tolerance that you are most definitely accessing is very high. And so when you start to go into relaxation or stress whilst not being able to compensate it with movement, what happens in your body is also very stressful for you. And that's an interesting moment because what usually people do is they try to go back to where they were. But they didn't or they don't take care of the bridge. Of the things that happen and happened while they got injured to the moment where they can start walking again. And the funny thing is that during these resting periods, you can do a lot of things that are good for yourself with a breath. Because usually what happens as well is that we're going to start eating weird stuff, sleeping weirdly, because our whole chemistry, or our whole brain chemistry is freaking out. Since you're not going to get the Stoffe, how do you say that in English? You're not going to get the chemistry that has been created before with all the different hormones that you can imagine. They're going to be miscalculated and misproduced, and your brain will start to freak out. This is now baby language to what is going on. Why? Because I don't want to go too much into the small chemistry in case I bore someone out. If you want to understand more, you can always message me and then I'm going to go into more detail. Now, the important thing, and this is what I want to speak about in the next video, is that the reason why we try to constantly optimize ourselves is the reason why it's very hard to move back into a state of acceptance a state of relaxation, a state of fluid execution, because our mind wants a state that is not the state that we are in. Plus, usually we are not taking care of our heart as a physical entity, and also not of the lungs, which then is going to freak the organs out, not just in the brain, but also underneath the lungs, which then as a consequence is going to stress all the joints, unless you can find a state of pleasure during an injury. That's been a very superficial video, but I'm going to launch it anyways because I'm also not striving for perfection.